So you've got people fearing that they could lose their job. But giant investors, you got the Warren Buffetts of the world saying, this is just Trump rhetoric. It's not going to happen. Could this be Trump just playing his bluff game?
Well, I don't think there's a bluff going on here in Missouri. I mean, as Vaughn just pointed out, and thank him for doing that, people are really losing their jobs. Really, that's not a bluff. They are really closing that plant. That's not a bluff.
And doesn't that show right there the clear difference between the stock market and the economy? In the stock market, you can buy and sell stocks within seconds. If you have to plan for actual corporate activity, you can't be that limber.
Years. Takes months and years to plan for a plant and decide to put the capital at work to buy all that plant and equipment, hire those workers, pay them more. But, you know, that's not what's happening. Look at Walgreens today, okay? Walgreens' tax rate went down from whatever it was, 25% to 7%. What are they doing with that extra money?
12 to 7.
12 to 7. Thank you for the actual
And what do they do with the money?
Buying back their stocks and paying a dividend to their shareholders, which is great for Americans who perhaps own stocks. But how about people who expected to get higher wages and higher employment and paid more for the work that they're doing? Not like the people here in Missouri who are losing their jobs. This is a total self-inflicted wound, Stephanie. The thing is that people thought with President Trump that they were going to get a good businessman. The irony of this is he's pretty much of a lousy businessman. He doesn't understand business, and he's showing it right now. Okay,
well, to the point of stock buybacks, we're already at something like $189 billion for the first 3 months of the year. All we've seen are one-time bonuses, no real wage increases. So it's been a great positive for the market. But in your piece in Vanity Fair, which you write, it has been a fun ride. Wall Street braces for Trump's economic colonic. Why is there going to be a colonic? All of this is great for the market. It's terrible for the American worker.
Well, there are many reasons, as I talked about in that piece.
Many reasons to talk about colonics. Thank you.
Many reasons to talk about how the fun ride is over, because no one rings a bell at the top of the market. The truth is that the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, what we think of as the stock market, is off 10% since its January highs. And
amazing.
Basically,
President Trump and his daughter Ivanka, who like to tweet about the market, haven't in quite some time.
No, that's because there's so much winning going on that they can't stand it anymore. I mean, the interesting thing is there is a debate even inside his own White House about the virtue of these tariffs and what have really become self-inflicted wounds. I mean, people who do understand the market, people like Steve Mnuchin, who is against, and Larry Kudlow are against these tariffs, and I hope Larry gets better soon. People who, for some reason, should understand but don't and are more sycophantic, like Wilbur Ross and Robert Lighthizer and Peter Navarro, are pushing these things. We are picking fights with our allies. We are picking fights with people who are investing in this country. Look at the Germans. They have built a huge BMW plant in South Carolina, perhaps the biggest car plant they have in the world. Mercedes-Benz and Volkswagen have also built car plants in the South. And what are we doing? We're picking fights with them. We're picking fights with China. Why are we doing this?
Okay, to that point right there, AutoNation CEO Mike Jackson says automotive tariffs will make steel tariffs look like a company picnic. We know President Trump doesn't have an understanding of how trade works. But if I'm Lindsey Graham, if I'm in the state of South Carolina, how do I manage this?
You have to come out and use your voice. Your voice as one of 100 senators, as one of the 2 senators for the state of South Carolina, and object to what he is doing. But they don't have the guts for it.
Okay, but let's say China comes in next week. And President Trump, again, who doesn't understand how a trade deficit works, he obsesses over, let's get that trade deficit number down. President Trump, it's not just the Chinese government, it's the U.S. consumer who wants to buy all that stuff. But let's say smoke and mirrors prevails, and China shows up and says, here's a way to lower the trade deficit. Trump will then say to his audience, look, I got that number down, and the stock market is doing so well, and we've got more people having jobs than ever. That's a winning headline for him.
Well, he is a master at creating winning headlines for himself. He is also a victim of people in the media who are properly pointing out where he is wrong, but it doesn't seem to have an effect with his base. The truth is, he also promised us, Stephanie, he was going to eliminate the national debt. Now it is 21 trillion and climbing, and he doesn't seem cared about that. Doesn't talk about that anymore. He doesn't talk about the annual deficits anymore.
President Trump, if you go into his business history, he's the master of debt. He's the king of debt.
I think there was a cover story about him being the king of debt.
He racks up debt. That's his jam.
Of course, and he defaults on it. He's defaulted between 4 and 6 times, and creditors have lost billions of dollars. And we may be, as a nation, about to go into some sort of bankruptcy spiral.
Then just imagine if we go full circle. President Trump was not a client of any U.S. banks because he racked up debt and did not pay. Imagine if we come full circle and we rack up our deficit, and at the same time, while the Robert Mueller investigation goes on, we find out that President Trump, who doesn't borrow from U.S. banks, borrows from Russians.
Well, that will be the death knell. And don't forget, who's our largest creditor? China. And who are we picking a trade fight with? China. Why are we doing this?
You know, we can never forget that. China. Take a look at how much U.S. government debt China owns. It's a whole ding-dang lot.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.